What up, Raffalitos? Continuing this chat about China's global impact on Guyana. Here we are in the botanical gardens. Actually, we just came from the back end of the gardens, and this is where I do my morning runs, especially when I start late. The pink stripe on these trees, that's in commemoration of Pinktober. That is, in Guyana, every October is Cancer Awareness Month, and in commemoration of those who are battling breast cancer and who have survived breast cancer, there's usually a celebration of Pinktober, where the public infrastructure in the park and here in the gardens, they put pink ribbons on the trees. But we're talking about the global impact of China in Guyana. I made a video previously where I talk about China's global impact in Guyana, on Guyana, as well as Russia's global impact on Guyana. So you can go look at that in the archives if you want to see what kinds of content I've made on this subject before. Today I'm going to take a walk down Regent Street. You can see in the distance, that's the Best Western Hotel and the skyline, so it's changing the skyline of Georgetown. And actually we do welcome investment in Guyana. So at the outset, I want to make it a point to say that whether it's Chinese investment or Indian investment or American investment, wherever the money comes from, is really not the point. We're not trying to be racist when we talk about China's global impact or America's global impact or Russia's global impact. We're just talking about how the society is dealing with the impact of China on Guyana. So I showed you what's happening with residential property on Hatfield Street, and I want to show you what's happening on Regent Street, where a lot of the new buildings being constructed are in fact Chinese buildings. That's Chinese owned. They have started to construct large buildings on Regent Street. And if you go down Regent Street now, what you will find is that most of the stores, most of the merchants on Regent Street are Chinese owned. For those of you who lived in Guyana in the 80s and 1990s, you will find that very strange, because Regent Street, or Regent Road as it is officially known, this is the intersection of Regent Street, Regent Road and Vlissingen Road, at about 7:45 in the morning, about 7:45 in the morning. And I actually waited this late to come out here because I wanted to capture some of the activity, because usually I'm out here about 5 or 6, maybe 5 or 4 in the morning, and it's usually dark and empty. But I wanted to capture some of this activity here. But this is Regent Street, or Regent Road, at the intersection of, or the intersection with Vlissingen Road. In the distance, that's the buildings behind these trees. Those are government buildings. That's called the government district. The office of the president is over there. The Minister of Agriculture is over there, and so on. So back to China's global impact. So what's happened in the last, what, 2 years, 3 years since I made a video on this subject is that there has been a huge influx of Chinese merchants, and they've built a number of Chinese stores. These are new buildings on Regent Street. Regent Street or Regent Road, the same thing. It's important because it's the busiest shopping street in Guyana. All right, I think I talked about this in previous videos too. For shopping, that is physical shopping, and before the internet, this street, Regent Street, does more business in terms of millions of dollars in sales of transactions. This street does more business in Guyana than any other street in the world. And so it's not surprising that eventually the Chinese businesses will take over. On the left, that is the Guyana Cricket Board, and beyond the fence is Border Cricket Ground. If you look at my recent video on that showed Border Cricket Ground, you will see I had a conversation with, what is it, one of the cricket club officials. I think he's the club manager, cricket club president or something, Jonathan. And I want to go take a look at that video, but this is Border Cricket Ground, and as you see, the building is also still in disrepair, but obviously they're making some money from putting up cell phone towers using the air rights. On the other side, that's the Ministry of Agriculture. But yeah, Jonathan's problematic. Jonathan has mental issues, so it's one of the reasons why we didn't argue with him in that video. Some people are saying that, you know, Jonathan, whatever. I don't argue with people who have mental issues. But here is the start of the commercial section of Regent Road or Regent Street. The last time I covered this, I pointed out that Regent Street or Regent Road now only has, I counted a total of about 7 black-owned businesses, and most of the remaining businesses are Chinese-owned. There are several Indian-owned businesses still on Regent Street, but most of these businesses are actually now owned by Chinese. I will simply point out the ones that I know of. All right, so this building, the Source, is a commercial building. They have a store on the ground floor. I've actually visited this building, and I think this is one of the black-owned buildings now. This is where somebody's putting up a new building over here, and we're going to eventually see what it looks like. But I talked about that. There's a house there for a long time that was abandoned. But WJ Enterprise, supermarket, and so on. Safeways as Shoe Source. Over here is Guyana Security Services Arcades. That's Roche Khan's building. Roche has a bunch of companies he operates out of that building. And here's Hamid's, right? One of the Indian stores, Indian-owned stores. Indian Guyanese, that is, not Guyanese, not Indians from India, right? That's Hamid's. They have a number of, I think at least 2 outlets on Regent Street. Elite is a new barber shop out here. This Arctic Ocean. This new building, well, actually it's no longer new, but it's been built in the last 10 years. Still yet to be occupied and named. But what you will find is that buildings like Arctic and so on, Arctic, what is it? Arctic Ocean Electrical Store, Chinese. And as you go further and further